Hello to all of my students, and here we are, 6 weeks into this very unusual, difficult historical event. And because we have been going through it, I have created something for you, the coronavirus checklist. And here's the question. When we look back, did you have the full experience? And when you are old, what will you remember about this historical event? And this first slide is my egghead slide. It's my history nerd slide. Let me get it out of my system. So here's a historical thought, or six in this case. If this video were to be seen 25 years from now, would it be valid history? Could a student use it as an accurate depiction of what happened? Would this be a primary or secondary source? Think about that. What historical perspective is being presented, and is it accurate? Has living through this pandemic made you think to how it will be presented to people who haven't been born yet? When you are my age and older, how will you present it to them? How has this event changed the world, the country, Michigan, Clarenceville, you? And as you saw, I just went through historical scale. And how are these scales interconnected? And hopefully living through this time, you can see that firsthand and then apply that to the stuff that has come before us, the history. And if you think about it, point 6 is all history goes through this scrutiny. Each portion of class that I teach you is essentially an algebraic variable that you could plug in to these things. Is it a valid source? That's historiography. Is it primary or secondary source? What perspective or perspectives most of the time are being presented? How are people presenting it to people who haven't come yet, who haven't been born yet? And these 5 scales affect all history just like it affects what's going on now. And again, it's been since March 12, and years from now, you're going to get asked this question. What was it like living through COVID-19? Or in their case, they're going to probably say COVID or something else. How was COVID-19? Well, we're going to tell them. Now, here's a little checklist. Have you experienced the following over the last 6 weeks? Bad video conferences. Okay, I think I have used in that menu, I think I've used 7 of those. And when somebody poses a question and everybody jumps in at once and one person forgets to put their mute off and you can hear their dog or their side conversations, and then somebody gets knocked off and then they come back and interrupts in the middle. Oh, I'm back. I think we've all experienced the good video conference experience during coronavirus. How about social distancing? Brand new term. Now we can add this term to the lexicon along with the new normal, coronavirus, stay-at-home order. Language is interesting. New words are born and words fade away. So social distancing. Here's 3/5 of the social studies department keeping 6 feet away. Now this was interesting. This was the last day at work and it was still unsure of how bad this would be, whether this was going to be a small potatoes thing. Obviously it's not. It's a major thing. So we're kind of half kidding saying, okay, social distance everybody. Not kidding now. Things change very rapidly. Did anybody experience the empty store shelves when you went into the store and it was empty or just about empty, especially toilet paper and paper towel? I've yet to be able to find yeast to make bread. Okay, we got time on our hands making bread. I can't find any. It's hard to find. Certain products were sold out. First couple of weeks, I couldn't find an egg to save my life. I couldn't find a gallon of milk to save my life. Anybody start hoarding or freaking out? I went to the grocery store right when we got the word it's going to be bad. I went with my father-in-law, and there were people who were really, really worked up. I'll never forget that experience. It's kind of crazy. Are you going to remember the political fighting? Are you going to remember the daily President Trump briefing and Dr. Fauci, who sometimes didn't see eye to eye with President Trump, Governor Whitmer, and what was going on at the state level, the local level? I think it's like the Super Bowl for people who are interpreters. I think they've had a field day. I see them going all the time on TV. But we had protests in Lansing, and we had all sorts of hullabaloo. Maybe you're going to remember the political fighting, confusion, how you're going to see President Trump's performance, how you're going to see Governor Whitmer's performance. The right wing calls her Governor Witchmer. Oh, that's clever. How are you going to see this? It's going to be interesting to see how you remember that. Bad haircuts. Now, at a certain point, we had no barbershops, so you really had to make the choice, grow your hair long or do something else. Now, my wife, who has never cut a head of hair in her life, I asked her to do it, so I had to go with the straight buzz. I just put the clippers on and shaved it all off. Um, that was the easiest thing. It was either that or put a bowl on my head. I don't know if that would have looked real good. I was thinking maybe the reverse mohawk. I had options, but I went with the straight buzz. Maybe you had a bad haircut during this coronavirus time. The term essential versus non-essential and the debate. Essential businesses could be open, and some are obvious, police stations and hospitals. And then non-essentials, things like a casino is a non-essential. But then there was a tweener, like, for example, a hardware store. I went to a hardware store and I bought a lot of non-essential things. I bought a puzzle just to pass the time. I bought a bird feeder to watch the birds, stuff to pass the time. And this is an interesting debate. What is essential? What is non-essential? Businesses that were essential hung banners, say, we are essential. And I think they made out pretty well. Non-essential businesses really hurting. The unemployment rate as I speak to you is astronomical because so many of these non-essential businesses had to lay off people or furlough people. If you have from a family who works in essential business versus a non-essential business, some people are making out very well with stimulus checks and other people are struggling. Very, very different experience based on this. Now, you can't forget the hardship. Now, this is clearly a primary source, and I screenshotted this, and at the time, this is April 30th, 2020, at 10 in the morning, and as of now, Michigan has 40,399 confirmed cases and 3,670 have died, with the Tri-County area getting hit the worst. There's over 1 million cases in the United States and over 3 million cases worldwide. So you can see this pandemic hit heavy. It hit hard. And this is maybe what you'll remember. Some of you have experienced loss. I have written at this point 5 sympathy cards. And I would guess people have written more. I went to Amazon to get some more sympathy cards. This is a sad undertaking. And I have to wait 3 weeks to get them because they are struggling to keep up. So that's kind of telling the kind of hardship this pandemic has caused. Also, I think we might remember our frontline workers and have a new level of respect for people. I know, grocery cashiers and the garbage men. I've thanked them. I thanked them for working because without them, society would have fallen apart. A little bit of a personal story. This is my wife who works in the present on the front line, and she was working with a patient with COVID, and she contracted it herself. And she was out almost a month with COVID herself. She's better now. She's healthy, but you can see here's the white ribbon and the hearts on my house window. And this was put on our lawn. I'm not even sure who put this on our lawn, but I think the fact that my wife did contract COVID through working in a hospital and then got through it, I think this was their way of thanking her. And I consider her a hero, and I consider the other people who kept society going a hero. That's what you might remember from this time. You might remember the masks. Now, the mask became an essential item. It might continue to be an essential item for a long time. A lot of stores wouldn't let you in without one, and getting people through the struggle. And I'm about to engage in some cannibalism here, as you can see. And I never thought I'd live in a world where everybody in the grocery store was 6 feet apart wearing a mask. It was very unusual at first, but I got to be honest with you, I'm getting used to it now. Quote unquote, the new normal, right? Yeah, another thing you might remember, this is more my brother's experience. My brother, who works for Ford Motor Company, Ford took their workers and their engineers and stopped making automotive products, and they're making masks. My brother, as we speak, he's working, managing a crew to manufacture as many masks as they can pump out. They're working 24/7 to do that. Now, to go back in time, this is Ford Motor Company 1942. This is my grandfather, who also worked for Ford's, and they're getting an award from the U.S. government for making equipment for World War II. All hands on deck. We had a crisis in World War II. Stop making cars, make equipment for World War II. Stop making cars, start making equipment for this pandemic. You might remember online school, whether it's online or positive or negative. How did your teachers handle it? What did they do? Are you going to appreciate traditional school more when you return to it? Or did you like online school more? Lots of questions. And of those things I mentioned, I'm going to venture to say you experienced a lot of them. I think at this point, I have experienced the full coronavirus experience. And at the end, I'd be curious if you would share with me your own story. What's your perspective on things? Is it different than what I presented? I'm sure it is, and that's fine. Yours is as valid as mine, even though you're 30 years younger than me. It doesn't matter. We're still experiencing history in the now, and we will have our perspectives. What are going to be your most prominent memories, do you think? What are your most prominent memories of the last 6 weeks? How have you coped with this psychologically? And I think that's a difficult thing to do. How did it change you? How did it change the people around you? And again, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And please keep in touch with me over the next 6 weeks. We're living through history together. I'd like to hear what's going on with you. It doesn't have to be heavy or academic, but I just hope you're doing well. Miss you guys, and I look forward to seeing you again in September. So have a good day.